Hi everyone, I'm Eric from Lonesome Reader, and here are 10 of the best books of short stories published in 2016. Of course, these are just my choices from the books I read this year. I'm sure there are a lot I've missed out on, so please comment below if you've read some great short story collections which don't appear on my list. And something I love about books of short stories is how you can just read an individual story on its own. Like when I wake up in the morning, if I have time, I quite often like to just read a short story first thing. But then if you read them together as a collection, they can take on a whole new meaning. I think all of these books have real gems, which are both brilliant on their own and really shine together as a collection. So all of my choices are in no particular order. First up is The Glass Shore, edited by Sinead Gleason, and this is published by New Island Books. This is an anthology which includes many different authors, but like the subtitle states, they are all women writers from the north of Ireland. It's a kind of sequel to another wonderful anthology edited by Gleason last year called The Long Gaze Back. But The Glass Shore moves chronologically over 2 centuries of writing. This creates a sense of the ideas and issues that these female writers dealt with in their fiction over time. They vary wildly in terms of themes and subject matter, but they're all of really high quality. There is an intense story set in a convent, another about an opinionated aging poet, a story, an absurdist story, where metal objects sort of speak and converse with each other. A story of a man who tries to reunite an adopted boy with his birth mother. A mural painter who creates something entirely different from what his paramilitary employers wanted. And another about a girl who takes the risky step of ordering pills online to abort her pregnancy. Overall, these stories sort of formed in my mind a cumulative mental portrait of the north of Ireland. Some stories deal specifically with moments of political change within the country, and others take place outside of the country altogether. It's really a treasure trove of great writing and a necessary celebration of women writers from this part of the world. Multiples by Lucy Caldwell, and this is published by Faber and Faber. She's an exceptional writer who conveys intense energy through intricately crafted stories about characters experiencing periods of extreme physical, sexual, and or emotional change. The stories in this book deal with issues ranging from romantic infatuation, grief over the death of a child, racial bigotry, gender identity, sexuality, becoming an expat, and suicide. These stories have a unique power to draw you into their reality and make you feel a part of it. It was an absolute joy reading this collection. American Housewife by Helen Ellis, and this is published by Scribner UK. This is undoubtedly, and I'm not even joking, one of the funniest books I've read all year. These short stories imitate the parlance of our modern day popular culture and online life to skewer the values of our consumer-driven, superficial society. Sorrows are drowned with Chanel No. 5. Book clubs are more about potluck dinners and outfits than literature. Little pageant girls enter protection programs to protect them from their fame-driven parents. The satire of these tales is enriched with self-help guide speak, which encourages you to understand the subtext of what a southern lady says, or how to be a grown-ass lady. Longer stories push frivolous pastimes to extreme and absurd ends, like being forced to be the surrogate in a group of ladies who form a book club, or neighbors who turn murderous over the dispute of the decoration in an apartment building's common area. This bombastic horror exposes the underlying emptiness of trivial middle-class standards of behavior. These stories are fantastically intelligent, but very fun and easy to read. An Account of the Decline of the Great Auk According to One Who Saw It by Jessie Greengrass, and this is published by John Murray. This is a bit of a cheat for me because it was actually published in 2015, but I only read it this year, and I had the honor of interviewing Greengrass a few months ago. Now, the characters in these stories often find themselves at odds with the lives they've ended up with producing feelings of estrangement and loneliness. The breadth of imagination used in these oftentimes surprising tales makes them utterly mesmerizing. They span great swaths of time and place, from a sailor who hunts a group of birds on a remote rock to extinction, to a dystopian future where the narrator is sequestered in an underground bunker, to a smelly misogynist in the 1500s who witnesses a peculiar plague. Yet there are also stories set in very recognizable and relatable situations, such as a narrator stuck working in an impersonal call center, a girl caught in the middle of her parents' bitter separation, and a lovesick student unable to focus on her thesis. This long-titled book is a daring and diverse collection which is highly intelligent, deeply emotional, and makes a big impact. A Portable Shelter by Kirsty Logan, and this is published by Vintage. Like her fellow contemporary Scottish writers Ali Smith and Jackie Kay, Logan is a writer with an astounding wit, creativity, and playfulness. Her stories often toy with notions of fairy tales to make unique statements about identity and the modern world. They also query the nature of storytelling itself, showing how our lives are really threaded through with stories which both define us and can be manipulated to free us from any categorization. And it's so clever how she sandwiches between the stories of this book the lives of two women who are a couple that narrate stories to the unborn child in one of their wombs, trying to prepare their soon-to-be newborn for the world. I love Kirsty Logan's innovative and heartfelt writing. Dinosaurs on Other Planets by Danielle McLaughlin, and this is published by Stinging Fly Press. This is only a debut collection, but I think McLaughlin demonstrates tremendous skill and confidence in her writing. These stories center on a broad spectrum of people, from a university girl to a young working class man to a philandering husband to a grandmother. These are people from all different classes of Irish society. In her portrayal of these varied individuals, she delicately conveys the remove between our internal realities and the way we exist for others within the world. She has a great talent for creating tension in her scenes of everyday reality, so that every detail reflects deeper stories of things like hidden affairs, desperation, financial insecurity, or love that has gone sour. McLaughlin is definitely a writer to watch, and this beautiful book of stories should be savored. And I also want to say that Stinging Fly Press also put out this reprint of a book of stories by Maeve Brennan called The Springs of Affection. And I've only read some of the stories. It's quite a long book, but I've read several of the stories. And I first read Maeve Brennan in the Long Gaze Back, Sinead Gleason's anthology, and she's just a wonderful writer. So this is another book of short stories from Stinging Fly that I'd really recommend. The Doll Master and Other Tales of Terror by Joyce Carol Oates, and this is published by Mysterious Press. In these 6 unsettling, mesmerizing, and masterfully constructed Gothic stories, Oates shows characters who experience a kind of crisis of consciousness, so the real and unreal intermingle to produce horrific results. They range from stories about a lonely boy who develops a dark habit, a white man who is imprisoned for shooting an unarmed black boy, and an insecure adolescent girl who befriends a family that keeps a very sinister pet. Many stories have unexpected twists, and Oates has inventive methods for keeping the reader on his toes. They also produce such feelings of unease for us readers, because Oates makes you sympathize so strongly with her characters. In doing so, they tap into our own darkest compulsions. We feel terror because we know that, with a twist of fate, their stories could become our own. These are truly electrifying tales, and if you really enjoy Oates' Gothic fiction, I would highly encourage you to seek out her quintet of Gothic novels, beginning with her family saga Bellefleur and ending with The Accursed. What is not yours is not yours by Helen Oyemi, and this is published by Picador. I feel like a lot of my choices are showing that I have a real penchant for stories that have a fairy tale feel, because Oyemi's fiction definitely has that, but in an entirely different way from Kirsty Logan. These stories don't follow neat arcs in storytelling. Just when you think you're in a fantastic medieval land, you find yourself in a very realistic present. Just when you think you get a grasp on the relationships between characters, a decade passes within the stories and everything has shifted. For instance, a story that you thought was about a ferocious female fish turns into a pop star's fall from grace. It may sound like Oyemi is being willfully opaque or mystifyingly clever, but there is something so engaging about the meaning she conveys through her indirect paths of writing that I found myself so absorbed and frequently moved. There isn't any other way to say what she is saying, and there is no other writing doing what she accomplishes so admirably in this creative and striking book. The author packs a lot into her stories, and they are so compelling that I know a rereading will be richly rewarding. The Dream Life of Astronauts by Patrick Ryan, and this is published by the Dial Press. 10 years ago, I read Patrick Ryan's extraordinary debut novel called Send Me, which focuses on different members of a family called the Kerrigans, and their individual stories over a number of years. In this new book, 2 stories include Frankie, a vibrantly original personality, and one of the sons of the Kerrigan family. However, it's certainly not essential to have read Ryan's first novel to get a lot out of this richly rewarding and highly enjoyable book of short stories, all centered around the Cape Canaveral area of Florida. We follow a wide range of characters in their ill-advised flirtations, motel rendezvous, infidelities, and the painful aftermath of breakups. These often misguided adventures are riveting to read about, as well as providing a sympathetic look at how romance is just as confusing for a pregnant teenager who dreams of being a model/actress as it is for a cuckolded husband or a frisky grandmother. Ryan has a keen sense for the oftentimes absurd/comic situations that people stumble into in life while pursuing their goals. They're stories that really linger in your imagination long after reading them. And finally, An Unreliable Guide to London, and this is published by Influx Press. This is another anthology made up of different writers. The stories show uniquely subjective and new perspectives on contemporary London that you don't often see portrayed in movies or books. In reading them, you'll feel the uniquely strong gust of wind which ushers you out of a South London tube station. Smell the toast sold by a trendy charitable cafe. See bizarre reflections in a canal's water. Hear the shouts of protest at the closing of a historic landmark, and taste the complex flavors in a lunchbox from a local Thai stall. If you live in or can travel to London in reality, you can then have these sensory experiences yourself. Or maybe it'll be different for you, because as the editors Budden and Callis note in their introduction, London is an unreliable city, always changing, from the endless construction to the flows of people moving in and out of the city. So this book acts as kind of a historical document while also telling entertaining and evocative stories. More than anything, it encompasses a variety of diverse personal takes on this fascinating and ever-evolving city. They creatively consider many things, from the housing crisis to the extreme economic disparity between groups of people. It's a particularly timely book which captures London now, and of course I think I particularly appreciated it because I live in the city, but I don't think you need to live here or have even visited it to really appreciate it. But of course I would really recommend reading it while riding on a London bus if you have the chance. So those are some of the best books of stories that I've read this year. I'd also highly recommend Joanna Walsh's book Vertigo, which I talked about in my video about top experimental fiction from 2016. You can call her fiction short stories, but it isn't exactly that, because her fiction is really, experimental. So let me know if you've read any of these books, or if you are tempted to read any of them in the comments below. Also, let me know some of your own favorite short story collections. As always, if you want to hear more of my thoughts about books, please subscribe to my channel. Happy reading, everyone!